Our motivation for doing this is not out of any obligation to Candice. It is about honoring Charley. We feel a deep responsibility to protect his legacy, his work, and the truth. I feel that. I owe Charley everything in my life. I feel it immensely. And that is why we feel compelled to speak clearly and openly now. We'll have more on this in the near future. All right. Frank Turek, are you there?
Well said, Blake. Yes, I'm here. And I just want to say that the night before Charley was murdered, and I'm not just saying this, but I went into his office. This was after we had a meeting. You were in the meeting, Blake, me, you, Charley, and some other folks. And he was going to dinner, and he said, hey, you're going to dinner with Blake and Danny. He said, Blake is my secret weapon. He's the smartest man I know. And he loved you. And for anybody to suggest, whether it's Candice Owens or any other person within TPUSA was somehow complicit in his murder, is to say that Charley Kirk was such a bad judge of character that he put a bunch of traitors around him. If there's anything I knew about Charley Kirk, is he knew how to spot talent and integrity and people that wanted to make a difference for the Lord and the country. Charley was brilliant at that. It takes a lot more faith to believe that Charley didn't know who his friends were and picked all the wrong people to surround him, to build an organization that came from nothing to the most powerful conservative organization in the country. In 13 years, he built it, and it was big before 13 years. You know, he really got it moving in about 7 or 8 years later. It strains credulity to suggest that people within that organization, people that he handpicked himself, somehow murdered him. If you're going to suggest that, you better have a lot of evidence, and I have seen none of it. It's unconscionable that anyone would say this without evidence. You can slander, you can say what if, you can have all sorts of innuendos and insinuations. That's not evidence. You can have dreams, you can have hunches, you can have vibes. That is not evidence.
Yeah.
No court.
Thank you so much, Frank.
No court would say that's evidence. I'm sorry, Blake.
We have to leave radio here for a second, but we're going to go through the break, and we want to continue our conversation. We'll be right back. Right, we're back, Frank, and thank you so much for that. It means a great deal. Charley meant so much to all of us, and that's made so much of what we hear so painful, so raw. It remains raw and painful. It's Andrew's talked about on this show. You know, he thinks about Charley every day when he gets up, and he thinks about him every night when he goes to bed, and he looms large in all of our heads and all of our hearts, and I suspect he will for the rest of our lives. And I wanted to take a chance to talk about this. So, you know, Charley did get the chance to finish Stop in the Name of God just before the tragedy. We're extremely happy that he did that, and it's out next, I believe on the 9th, next Tuesday. Every book comes out on a Tuesday for some reason, and I know you were one of the pastors he was closest to. There you do. You got your advanced copy. Mm-hmm. And I just thought I'd ask you, throw out to you, if you could talk about what the Sabbath means, and if you had any funny interactions with Charley about his own relationship with the Sabbath. I'm sure he had that conversation with you. Well, yeah, Charley was wanting to keep the Sabbath, not necessarily because he thought it was an obligation, but because he thought it was a fabulous idea that helped him recharge every week and refocus back on God and his family. He would take, as you know, Blake, he would take his cell phone, turn it off, put it in a drawer, and for 24 to 30 hours, however long the Sabbath was, you could not reach him unless there was some sort of emergency. There was a special line that people could call, but he wanted to be out of touch so he could be in touch with the Lord and in touch with his family, and that's what he did. And in this book, I was shocked, because he and I talked about this a lot, and I know you probably did too, Blake. I was shocked at how good the book was, because he's not a trained theologian.
But man, did he do his research, Blake. And he's got chapters in here on arguments why the Sabbath is still in place, and another chapter on why it's not. And he, of course, lets the reader decide. But he was so serious about Christianity, so serious about the Bible, that he wanted to put this down because it was such a blessing to him. And if we're going to be serious about being Christians, then we ought to follow the Bible too. And unfortunately, I don't see people following the Bible and following the admonition to ensure that you don't accuse people without evidence in this whole debate we're having over who really killed Charley. It's a shame. If people took the Bible as seriously as Charley did, we wouldn't have what's going on with all this speculation now.
Amen, amen. I think there's people have been posting the different warnings. I think it was the book of Proverbs that we had going yesterday about, I don't have it right in front of me, but lies. You have to reject the way of lies.
Yeah, Proverbs 6:16 says, God hates one who sows discord among the brothers. And it also talks about a lying tongue and false witness. And there's a lot of discord out there. And we don't need discord. We need people to ask good questions, but not imply people are guilty when you don't have evidence. There's such a thing as a complex question, as you well know, Blake, because you're well schooled in logic. The complex question would be like me asking a married man, when did you stop beating your wife?
Yeah, there's this baked-in assumption to it. And
that's right. There's a baked-in assumption. And that's what I see in so much of what's going on with online conspiracy theories. There's a baked-in assumption. And with regard to people convicting innocent people in the court of public opinion without evidence, it's very similar to what happened to Jesus. Because Caiaphas, the high priest, had the verdict in his mind.
We have to welcome radio back here. We'll continue the Caiaphas story. Lying lips are an abomination to the Lord, but those who act faithfully are his delight. Proverbs 12. We'll be right back with radio. Welcome back to the Charley Kirk Show. We were talking about Charley's book, Stop in the Name of God, out next Tuesday, all about why, why honoring the Sabbath will transform your life. I was only a secondhand witness to that. Charley had only just recently, I believe, begun his weekly Sabbath Shabbat ritual around when I joined, but I heard it overflow from everyone. They would talk about how different Charley was, how marriage, how becoming a father, how it had softened his edges. It had made him a more whole and complete person. And I had the blessing to come into the aftermath of that, where I would tell my friends, I would tell these people, I'm like, yeah, this Charley guy, it's incredible how impressive he is, how much he's able to achieve. And we're here with Frank Turek, of course. Frank, you were in the break for the radio people, you were setting up how we were talking about truth and untruth and lies, and you were telling the story of Caiaphas. Do you want to continue that story?
Sure, yeah. Caiaphas, the high priest who sentenced Jesus to die, of course, did so much wrong. He had a trial at night. He was the judge, the jury, the executioner himself. Well, he had to get Pilate to execute him. But he already had the verdict in his mind. He was not trying to discover the truth. He already had the verdict in his mind, and so he brought false witness after false witness to accuse Jesus of something he did not do. And then ultimately, Jesus under oath did admit he was the Messiah, did admit he was essentially God, and that's where, of course, Caiaphas tore his robes and said, blasphemy, you must die. But to that point, he had done everything against the proper use of authority. You don't judge people. You're not the judge, jury, and executioner. You don't find a verdict and then try and get people to falsely accuse the victim or the person on trial. But that's what Caiaphas did, and I see too many people doing that now. They already have a verdict in their mind. They can't substantiate it with hard evidence. They have a lot of innuendo. They have a lot of coincidences, but they don't have hard evidence. And they're looking for a way to validate what they want to be true. This is not the way our judicial system works, thankfully. It's not the way the Bible puts it forth. It's not the way, which, by the way, our judicial system and our laws are taken largely from the Bible. that you're supposed to have 2 or 3 witnesses. In other words, you're supposed to have corroborating evidence. You're supposed to have impartial judges. You're supposed to have an independent judiciary. You're supposed to be able to confront the witnesses. The Bible talks about this. And that's incorporated in our 6th Amendment to the United States Constitution. How can you confront witnesses in the court of public opinion? You can't, not in a systematic way. All this has to go to trial. And I understand, Blake, and I know we're all suspicious of government sometimes, but we can't be cynics. We can't say that every single thing the government does is corrupt or wrong. We can't do that. We won't have a society if we do that.
Yeah, you know, a lot of this, you know, the events of the past few months, it's expanded my appreciation of Charley and, again, how strong he was. And one of those things is I've really realized since this happened what Charley had to put up with in private that he never complained about. He never complained about to me, certainly, and I was one of his closest associates. And, you know, he endured a lot of pressure. He endured in private things that were so hurtful, and he just had this strength that he wouldn't let it perturb him. And that's why I wanted to talk about this book, because I do think the Sabbath, Shabbat, he would say that helped so much. It was for 6 weeks, he would labor for 6 weeks. He would endure the slings and arrows of his political enemies, his political allies quite often. But he had this day where he was with Erica, he was with his children, the phone was off, he was unplugged. He really makes the point in this book, the Sabbath is not this duty. The Sabbath is a gift. It is God's gift to you, that you shall not labor all 7 days like a slave. You shall have this freedom from God given to you. And he really wanted to share that. It wasn't just, look at how great I am that I can do this. I'm looking here, chapter 12, Sabbath made simple, how you can incorporate it into your life by, you know, making your Sabbath start ritual, turning off your phone 24 hours, planning screen-free meals with friends and family. And it goes on like this. And he really sketches out how you can imitate him. And we were saying in the last hour that Charley was so great for Gen Z because he offered this model of strength and self-improvement. Don't black pill, don't be downbeat. You can improve yourself and make your life better. 30 seconds, Frank.
Now, I was also going to say it's not just about the Sabbath, too. The first 2 chapters deal with the fact that there's evidence that Christianity is true. It's more an apologetic, which is a word we use to say we're giving evidence for what we believe. It's an apologetic for Christianity. So it's not just about the Sabbath. It's a very well-written book, very well-researched book. It comes out December 9th. It's called Stop in the Name of God, Why Honoring the Sabbath Will Transform Your Life. Get it.
Amen, Frank. It's, I think people will be able to get a lot from it. I think people are really going to appreciate it, and I'm so happy he was able to finish it before he was taken from us by the hand of God. We'll be right back.